This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening. I'm Sabrina Brown. Thank you for joining us. Topping the news tonight, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable K. Peter Turnquest, releasing a statement regarding the economic impact of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas. The Finance Minister notes that he has had the opportunity to review the report prepared by the Economic Commission for Latin America, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the Pan-American Health Organization, working alongside officials from the Ministry of Finance and a number of other public agencies. Italia Hall has more on our top story.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable K. Peter Turnquest, says the current disaster assessment report is similar to the ones commissioned by the government after Hurricanes Matthew, Irma, and other recent major hurricane events in the Bahamas. The report details the unprecedented economic damage brought by Dorian, which is estimated at some $3.5 billion. The island of Abaco registered some 87% of the economic value of the damage. The destruction and damage to the housing sectors in Abaco and Grand Bahama accounted for most of the physical damage. The statement notes that an event of this magnitude, with losses equivalent to almost 30% of the national GDP, has had and will have significant impact to our near-term fiscal and economic prospects. The minister adds that the government has established a framework for special economic recovery zones and the institutional framework to allow for expedited efforts to restore Abaco and Grand Bahama in a way that will eventually exceed the living standards in those islands before Dorian. The cleanup exercises have commenced, the tax concessions are being implemented, and the funding mechanisms to provide much-needed capital to impacted small businesses have already begun to make disbursements. He says it remains critical to point out that the medium-term prospects for these islands and the Bahamas overall continue to be exceptionally bright. In Grand Bahama, the Carnival Cruise Port development will get underway by the end of the year. The Grand Lucayan transaction remains on track to be finalized by the end of the year as well, kicking off the redevelopment of that property into a world-class family resort. Notwithstanding the devastation of Hurricane Dorian, the DPM adds that the resilient spirit of Bahamians remain undaunted. He says, in fiscal terms and economic terms, though this storm has forced the government to reset its priorities and change their plans, they have and will be able to demonstrate a fiscal strategy and a pipeline of investments that will ensure that the economic and fiscal recovery that this administration led in its first 2 years will ultimately gain traction once again as the country emerges from the near-term impact of this event. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Officials from the private and public sectors visiting Sweetings Key over the weekend to assess the damage incurred by Hurricane Dorian. The president of the Grand Bahama Power Company was a part of that group. Now the entire community of East End has been without electricity for almost 3 months now. In this report, the president gives an update on the restoration of power and the plan going forward. Italia Hall has more.
While power has been restored to most of Grand Bahama, the community of East End remains without. President of the Grand Bahama Power Company, David McGregor, says it was important for him to travel to Sweetings Key along with the group to understand what the rebuilding process will be like. He says it is also important for the company to learn from what occurred and to do things differently in the future.
So certainly as a power company, we'll be looking at solar and storage as part of the solution rather than building back all the poles and wires again just for them to come down in the next storm. So it's really important we try and do something differently. I'm very pleased to be working with the government on doing something different for the residents here at Sweetings Key.
He adds that there will be a similar solution for East Grand Bahama and Deepwater Key.
It's not about the poles and the wires all the way from Freeport. I think time and time again we're learning that is not the solution. The solution is solar and storage solutions distributed within the local communities. So each one of the local communities, as they build back, we can put the right size solar system, and then as the community grows, we can put a bigger one in until the communities are back to normal. How long is that going to take? I mean, people are asking, when's the power coming? When's the power company? The power will come when there's something for the power to hook onto. If you drive on the drive here today, you would see there are very, very few places that are intact and able to take permanent power.
Now, for those in East Grand Bahama whose homes were not severely damaged or are now repaired, the president says that there will still be a challenge for those persons to receive electricity.
For us to create a system for one person at the end of a 1 kilometre road, we all pay for that. You pay for that, I pay for that, because that's the way the power system works. So we're going to work with those individuals, and when we see clusters, and we're trying to work with government and all the other stakeholders who are trying to, I guess, build back in a controlled fashion, in an organised fashion. And, for that, then we'll get the most resilient, the most sustainable, and the most affordable solution for all Grand Bahamians.
Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Thank you, Italia. The shantytown community, The Mud in Abaco, remains in the headlines as it has been labeled as unsafe and unhealthy. However, residents of that community are seeking the right to rebuild on that land following the passage of Hurricane Dorian. Tonight, Megan Shepard has an update on the cleanup efforts of that community located in Marsh Harbor, Abaco.
What a difference 9 weeks makes. This is the site of the controversial shantytown known as The Mud. Behind me and to the side of me, crews are busy working, clearing all of the debris. Now, this site is controversial because, as you may know, the former residents of this community say they deserve to be able to move and rebuild back on this property. However, the government of the Bahamas wants to shut that down. Just along the edges, fences are already being put in place to prevent the rebuilding of The Mud. Now, in an effort to continue to keep the land cleared, Bahamas striping has been contracted.
Basically, we're just moving the trash and all the debris from the storm and taking it to a dump site.
How long have you guys been here at the site?
The operation started about a month ago.
Mitchell says that they did experience minor challenges due to the condition of the land, but the work is progressing well.
The area we're working in, as you know, it's called The Mud. It's very soft grounds, and we're working with a lot of heavy equipment. So sometimes we have challenges moving around in the mud. Other than that, it's okay because we having fun our job because it's our job. This is what we do, and we do it to our best.
Now, Mitchell was born and raised on Abaco. He says when he began to hear of the level of devastation, he knew he had to come back and make a contribution to the restoration efforts.
As soon as I got the call and the pictures and the videos about the storm and the effect it had on Abaco, I was heartbroken and I had to come. First thing came to mind is get to Abaco and try to help out with restoring the place. And so be it. I got a call about this job. I have a lot of friends and families in these areas and other parts of Abaco, which was affected from the storm, and it damaged me a bit. But I had to keep hope alive, and try to encourage my friends and my family to let them know that we could come back from this. In due time, we'll have a better Abaco, better future.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
In other news, a Grand Bahama woman charging that police officers placed her family in danger after shooting into their home in pursuit of a suspect. Tonight, she is calling for answers after she says this incident has left a traumatizing effect on those who had to live through this scary situation. Shashina Farquharson reports.
Police officials coming under fire tonight after a mother and grandmother say that one officer recklessly fired his gun into her home in pursuit of her son. She says 6 children were inside, the youngest a 3-week-old baby. It is an emotional experience that Shori Cooper says she and her children will never forget. Cooper notes that she wasn't at home during the shooting incident, but she received a phone call from her son's frantic girlfriend who says that loud shots were ringing off into their home. That's when she rushed at home.
I mean, the house surrounded, like the station, the whole police station was in this yard. So I gone out there, they was roughing my son. I say, what happened? The officer come behind me in the back, and he handcuffed me, yucked me so much, sprained my hand. All the marks of the ankle braces still on my hand, because the ankle braces tighten when you move. Throw me in the car and say I'm locked up. I say, for what? I'm the owner of this house. I don't know what happened. My daughter said that gunshot going off and everything. They didn't even give me a chance to come in here. And they throw me in the car there. They do all kind of search and everything without a doll home.
Later, her son explained what happened.
He said he come out the car and he saw them. And he just ran in the house and ran through the back door. And they said that he pulled firearm on him. I mean, he pulled the fire on the officer. But how could he pull a firearm when he's running through the back door? I feel like if my son had pulled a firearm, he wouldn't have been living today. The officers would have get him down. You hear me? But my son ran through the back door, and that's me. The bullet didn't get him. The bullet hit the cabinet and the wall and the door.
Shorey says the fact is that there was no concern by officers or serious regard for the children inside.
My son girlfriend, who have the 3 weeks old baby, my 10-year-old, my grandson, granddaughter 10, my grandson 6, my grandson 1-year-old and an 8-year-old. What's happened? My grandson, the 1-year-old, have a hole in his heart, and they are shaken up. They even don't want to come in the house no more. And then yesterday morning, they come back without any search warrant, 7 o'clock in the morning without any search warrant, and walk straight through the backyard. Straight through the backyard. 4 or 5 of them walked straight to the backyard. Didn't knock to my door. Didn't say they come to search or nothing. They done do wrong in my house and still come in here and have no respect for me and my children.
She says this quick decision by officers could have cost one of the children's life.
My son could have been dead, shoot backwards. Because how high that bullet gone in the cabin, he was aiming for his head. That wasn't right. It was on the streets, I wouldn't have mind. You know me? I would have taken my blow. But in here, where I live, my grandchildren, that's not right.
It seems as if you're tearing up now. What's going through your mind?
It's hurting. They could have catch one of my grandchildren. They step over my son on the floor. They step over him on the floor. Every time I think about it, it brings tears to my eyes. It's not right. And I'm not going to stop until I get satisfaction. I'm not going to stop. I don't care if they jail my son or put him in jail, but I'm not going to stop. I almost gone crazy when my son girlfriend called me. Only 100 kids home and gunshots in the house. I have never been through that. My age is 53 and I've never been through this yet. My son have been get locked up over and over, but this have never happened.
Now, she says her son has been arrested following this incident, and she says while she has no issues with police officers doing their job, others, including children, should not be placed at risk. She's calling on the powers that be to look into the situation as soon as possible so that it doesn't happen again. Shashina Rolf-Farquharson, ZNS Network News.
Now, police officials responding to Shorey Cooper's claims this evening. According to press liaison officer ASP Teresita Pinder, police officials are satisfied that officers on the scene were justified in their response. Pinder says officers saw Cooper's son, Hayward Johnson, with a weapon, and he fired that weapon at officers who, in fear for their lives, fired back. She says that no children were around, noting that 20-year-old Johnson is well known to police. Stay with us. There's more news after this.